Hey, what's up, you guys? Today I wanted to just mention something. I'm going to try to make it real quick. It could probably end up going on for 10 minutes, but hopefully it won't be too long. And what I wanted to talk about is dimensions. And the reason I want to talk about it is because of, all of the UFO or UAP incidents that are being brought to light right now. Now, you guys know, I'm sure, because you've seen more than likely one of my other videos talking about this, where I personally believe that this is going to be a part of the Great Deception, because they will be able to say, listen, here's these beings, we have admitted to you that they are here now, and they could easily try to tell us that, well, they're the ones who seeded Earth and that all life is here because of them. They could try to tell us that our intelligence was because of their manipulation and not by evolution, because oh my goodness, whole other can of worms, but evolution has no real proof to it. There is no direct evidence that shows us how evolution works. I mean, think about the termite, for example. The termite cannot live without the organism inside of it actually breaking down the wood that the termite eats for the termite to be able to digest it and live off of it. And the same thing, at the same time, the organism that lives inside the termite would not be able to survive without the termite breaking down and eating that wood, giving it a place to live inside of the termite's body for it to ingest that food and be protected. Okay? So evolution just doesn't work. Those organisms would not have been able to survive apart from each other, and wouldn't just adapt over millions of years to work with each other like that, because neither one would have survived long enough for that to happen. It just doesn't work like that. But aside from all that, that's what I'm saying, is they would be able to skew that information once again, because they have aliens now, and they're like, okay, so we can use this. We can convince people that God is not real. The ultimate objective of mankind, the world, and the way science is used now is just prove God's not real. No holds barred, like any way they can prove God isn't real. But back to what I was talking about with dimensions. We see in some of the footage and in some of the testimonies that have been given about these UFOs, UAPs, whatever you wish to call them, that they are able to move in ways that don't make sense to us, to our technology. Now, if it was legitimately 100% physical and they operated on the same dimensions that we did, then sure, yeah, they would have some kind of technology that we don't understand. But if you understand the laws of physics, then you would know that the things that they do not operate under the laws of physics. It doesn't work. Being able to zigzag across the sky, or even being able to move incredibly fast in the water, is just not physically possible in our laws of physics. But think about it like this. The governments have, well, not just the governments, but you know what I'm talking about, have said that it's more than likely that these beings are extra dimensional, that they have stepped out of whatever their dimension is into ours to operate. They would actually be, in my opinion, much less educated than theirs, but at least biblical. They would be correct in assuming this, because to operate outside of our dimensions, laws of physics, it would have to be extra dimensional. Think about it like this. Mario, for example, probably the easiest thing I could use for this. Mario's world is two-dimensional. Now, us being technically of a higher dimension than Mario in his flat world, we would be godlike. So if you were in Mario's world, say you're seeing his world from his perspective, it would appear as a flat line. He would be able to see things as his dimension shows him, but he would only be able to see things in that dimension. Now, if we say we are the ones playing the game, what if we were able to reach in and move or alter something in his dimension? Say we were able to just touch the screen and move some of the blocks, or just poke one of the enemies and it gets defeated, whatever. I'm sure you understand what I mean. It would look godlike to Mario. It would seem like some sort of deity had reached in and had done something in his world. We need to understand that angelic beings, meaning angels and demons, are on that higher dimension. And God is most likely of an even higher dimension. He says that he holds time within the span of his hand. Now, the span of your hand, if I remember right, is the distance between your thumb right here to your index finger. God holds time in that. That's how little it means to him. And if you ask me, it is because God is almost beyond extra dimensional. We don't know how many dimensions that there truly are in reality, not our reality, God's reality. There could be upwards of 10, 12 dimensions. God reaching in and doing something in our dimension would not be visible to us. We would see the effects of it, and we would be like, oh my goodness. We would see it and we would think that was something God did, because God operates on a higher dimension than we do. Same thing with angelic beings, angels and demons. Now, if you are a believer and you have some wisdom, then you probably know that these aliens are demonic entities. That is more than likely, I would say a 99%. I personally am 100% sure, but we'll just say on a general stance, should be 99% certain that these are demonic entities and not some beings coming from another galaxy, or even some beings that exist outside of our dimension. They do exist outside our dimension, but they've always been there. They are demonic. Have they influenced the way mankind is developed? Yes, obviously. The Bible tells us that they have. Look at before the time of the flood. The Bible tells us that they taught men how to be able to manipulate things in our world. So the same way that we would be able to reach into Mario's world and to be able to manipulate things, and it would look insane. It would look like some advanced technology that we just don't understand. It's the same thing whenever a demonic entity or an angelic entity steps into our dimension with their however so many extra dimensions that they have and operate. It's not going to make any sense to us. They will be able to move in ways that we don't understand. For instance, like I said, moving through the air, moving through the water. Look at it, again, from Mario's standpoint in the two-dimensional world. He is only able to move as fast as the game allows him to move, as fast as his dimensional physics allow him to move. We, on the other hand, would be able to touch our finger onto that screen and just be able to do all this, whatever we want. Because we are of a higher dimension, he would look at it and he would be like, oh my goodness, it's moving faster than anything that in my dimensional physics is able to allow. It has to be alien, or it has to be godlike. Them bringing a vehicle. I mean, if you look in, I think it's Ezekiel, I could be 100% wrong, but the wheel within the wheel, they do use vehicles of a sort. And like I said, dimensionally it doesn't make sense to us, but whenever they step into our world, they are not going to be bound by our laws of dimensional physics. They'll be bound with their own. And like I said, I believe that God is outside of the realm of dimensional physics, and so he is bound by none of them. Able to do things like you see in the Bible, like being able to part the Red Sea, or to make the waters at the Jordan River just completely stop. Being able to bring somebody back to life. If again you look at that, those things that he does in a means of a two-dimensional world being interacted with by a three-dimensional being, you can go into the game and you can write code to change how things are happening. Mario's not going to see that on his timeline. We essentially would be able to go into the future of how the game is going to operate in that point in time and change it. And to Mario, it's going to seem like time's moving along normally, and all of a sudden something crazy is happening and he doesn't understand it, but to us, we knew it was going to happen there because we programmed it to happen there. God programs things to happen whenever he wants them to happen. He knows what's going to happen beforehand. Again, think of the same analogy. You know, the Bible says that God knows all things before they happen. Well, if we were programming that world and we were in control of that world that we designed, we would know all things that were going to happen before it happened. Sorry, I killed a spider. So, I don't feel like I really need to try to explain more on top of that subject, but just try to think about it like that whenever it comes to these dimensional beings, and don't get hung up and confused on it. Yes, we are starting to see these beings operating in our physical dimension. Do not be fooled by the governments whenever they try to explain away and say that, well, they've come and, you know, they're going to help us. I heard a report from one of them. I can't remember who this guy is off the top of my head. He's very high up and has a lot of influence, and he was explaining that if these beings were malevolent in any kind of way, they would have already taken us out. The way he said it was, the first time that they would have seen us develop nuclear weapons, they would have wiped us out because they would know otherwise we're going to wipe ourselves out. And so he's claiming that these beings are benevolent and are doing their best to try to help us. We got to be careful of that, because the moment they claim they're trying to help us, they can claim all kinds of other things involving these aliens and say that we need to believe in them, we need to look up to them. So I hope this makes any sense to you guys. If it doesn't quite, I would reference you guys to a video I watched by a guy named Chuck Missler. If you've never looked him up, I would definitely look him up. It's some really big brain concepts, some of the things that he goes over, so be prepared to have your mind open and get exercise, that's for sure. But just look up Chuck Missler and then look up and add on to your search dimensions, and it should pop up the video I'm talking about. And it's the thing that really gave me this perspective to be able to think about. And it's incredible whenever you think about it. But again, I hope this kind of brings something to light for you guys. Maybe helps you see something that you didn't see before. And if it doesn't, and this sounds like just a bunch of gibberish that I'm talking, well, whatever. Sometimes it'll sound like that. Anyways, I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I'll see y'all later.